Question 1. The investigation demonstrates that a consultant, under pressure from a client to expedite the deployment of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6, 3. proposed to bypass the detailed configuration of monitoring thresholds and rely solely on default settings to accelerate the rollout of agents. Which of the following actions best represents the ethically and professionally responsible approach in this situation? Option A. Advise the client that a proper implementation requires significant time for threshold configuration and suggest delaying the agent deployment until all configurations can be meticulously completed, even if it means missing the client's desired timeline. Option B. Communicate to the client the risks associated with using default thresholds, explain the importance of tailored configurations for effective monitoring, and propose a phased approach that prioritizes essential threshold tuning after initial agent deployment, while still ensuring core functionality is established. Option C. Immediately deploy the agents as requested, assuring the client that default thresholds can be adjusted later, and focus on other aspects of the implementation to meet the client's perceived urgency. Option D. Proceed with deploying agents and configuring default thresholds, but document the limitations and potential issues arising from this approach in a separate, internal report not shared with the client. Correct answer is B. Communicate to the client the risks associated with using default thresholds, explain the importance of tailored configurations for effective monitoring, and propose a phased approach that prioritizes essential threshold tuning after initial agent deployment, while still ensuring core functionality is established. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a client's desire for immediate, potentially incomplete, information and the consultant's ethical obligation to provide accurate, well-supported recommendations. The pressure to deliver quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the implementation and potentially violate best practices for system deployment. Careful judgment is required to balance client expectations with the need for thoroughness and adherence to established methodologies. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and thorough implementation process, aligning with the principles of responsible IT consulting and project management. This approach ensures that all critical aspects of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6, 3 are configured correctly, including the establishment of appropriate monitoring thresholds, the integration of Tivoli Enterprise Portal Server (TEP) with the Tivoli Management Server (TMS), and the proper deployment of agents. This methodical process minimizes the risk of misconfiguration, reduces the likelihood of false positives or negatives in monitoring, and ultimately leads to a more stable and effective monitoring solution. Adhering to the vendor's recommended implementation steps and best practices, as implied by a thorough approach, is crucial for ensuring the system's reliability and the client's long-term satisfaction, and it indirectly supports the ethical obligation to deliver a competent and professional service. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing the immediate deployment of agents without adequately configuring the Tivoli Management Server, TMS, or the Tivoli Enterprise Portal Server, TEP. This failure to establish the core infrastructure before deploying monitoring components is a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. It violates the principle of competent service delivery by creating a foundation that is likely to be unstable or incomplete, leading to potential system failures and inaccurate data. Ethically, it is misleading to the client to suggest that a functional monitoring system is in place when critical components are not properly integrated or configured. Another incorrect approach is to skip the detailed configuration of monitoring thresholds and alert mechanisms, relying solely on default settings. This is professionally unacceptable because default settings are rarely optimal for a specific client environment. Failing to tailor these settings means the monitoring system may either generate excessive, non-actionable alerts, alert fatigue, or miss critical events, thereby failing to provide the intended value. This constitutes a failure in due diligence and a breach of the professional obligation to deliver a solution that meets the client's specific needs. It also risks non-compliance with any internal service level agreements that rely on timely and accurate incident detection. A third incorrect approach is to defer the security configuration of the Tivoli monitoring environment, such as user access controls and data encryption, to a later, unspecified date. This is a critical ethical and professional failure. Security is an integral part of any IT system implementation, and neglecting it during the initial deployment creates significant vulnerabilities. This can expose the client's sensitive data to unauthorized access or compromise, which could have severe regulatory consequences for the client, and reflects poorly on the consultant's commitment to a secure and responsible implementation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a phased and systematic approach to implementing complex systems like IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. This involves a thorough understanding of the client's requirements, careful planning, adherence to vendor best practices, and rigorous testing at each stage. When faced with client pressure for speed, professionals must communicate the risks associated with cutting corners and advocate for a complete and correct implementation. The decision-making process should involve risk assessment, prioritizing critical path activities, and ensuring that all essential components and configurations are addressed before declaring the implementation complete. This ensures both technical efficacy and ethical compliance. Question 2. Upon reviewing the initial assessment for an IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 implementation, the client expresses a strong desire to expedite the deployment, suggesting that certain advanced configuration steps for specific application monitoring agents be deferred to a later phase to meet an aggressive go-live date. The client emphasizes that the core infrastructure monitoring is the immediate priority. As the lead consultant, how should you proceed? Option A. Explain the potential risks of deferring advanced configurations. Propose a phased approach that prioritizes critical monitoring while outlining a clear plan for subsequent advanced configurations, and seek client agreement on this revised strategy. Option B. Inform the client that the implementation cannot proceed as requested due to the critical nature of complete agent configuration, and suggest delaying the go-live date until all configurations are finalized. Option C. Implement a generic, out-of-the-box configuration for all agents, assuming it will cover most essential monitoring needs, and inform the client that customization will be a post-implementation activity. Option D. Proceed with the client's request to defer advanced configurations, focusing solely on core infrastructure monitoring to meet the go-live date, and document the deferred items for future follow-up. The correct answer is A. Explain the potential risks of deferring advanced configurations. Propose a phased approach that prioritizes critical monitoring while outlining a clear plan for subsequent advanced configurations, and seek client agreement on this revised strategy. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a client's immediate perceived need and the long-term stability and security of their IT infrastructure, which is directly managed by the implementation of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. The challenge lies in balancing the consultant's duty to provide effective solutions with the ethical obligation to ensure the client's system is not compromised by shortcuts or incomplete configurations. The consultant must exercise careful judgment to avoid recommending a solution that, while seemingly faster, could lead to significant operational risks and potential compliance issues down the line. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough and compliant implementation of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. This involves adhering to the vendor's recommended configuration procedures, which are designed to ensure optimal performance, security, and maintainability. By conducting a comprehensive discovery and assessment, the consultant ensures that all critical components are monitored, appropriate thresholds are set, and the system is configured to meet the client's stated and unstated operational requirements. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of future incidents, reduces the likelihood of false alarms, and ensures that the monitoring solution provides actionable intelligence, thereby safeguarding the client's investment and operational continuity. This aligns with general IT consulting best practices that emphasize quality, reliability, and client benefit over expediency. An incorrect approach that involves skipping certain configuration steps to meet an aggressive timeline is professionally unacceptable. This failure represents a breach of professional duty by not delivering a complete and robust solution. Specifically, it could lead to a monitoring system that is ineffective, missing critical alerts, or generating excessive noise, all of which undermine the purpose of implementing IBM Tivoli monitoring. Furthermore, it could expose the client to security vulnerabilities if monitoring for security-related events is incomplete. This approach prioritizes short-term client satisfaction over long-term system health and reliability, which is ethically questionable and potentially damaging to the client's operations. Another incorrect approach, such as implementing a generic, out-of-the-box configuration without customization, also fails to meet professional standards. While it might seem efficient, it ignores the unique requirements and complexities of the client's specific environment. IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 is designed for flexibility and customization to adapt to diverse IT landscapes. A generic configuration is unlikely to provide accurate insights or effectively detect issues relevant to the client's specific applications and infrastructure, leading to a suboptimal monitoring solution and potential missed critical events. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to tailor the solution to the client's needs. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the project scope, client expectations, and the capabilities and limitations of the technology being implemented. Consultants should always advocate for best practices and thorough implementation, even when faced with pressure for speed. If a client insists on a rushed or incomplete implementation, the consultant has an ethical responsibility to clearly articulate the risks associated with such an approach, document these risks, and offer alternative solutions that balance speed with quality. This might involve phased implementations or prioritizing critical monitoring aspects first, with a clear plan for subsequent comprehensive configuration. Transparency with the client about potential consequences is paramount. Question 3. Benchmark analysis indicates that implementing IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 for process optimization requires careful consideration of agent deployment and configuration to avoid unintended performance impacts. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for achieving effective process optimization through ITM V6.3? Option A. Implement all ITM agents across the environment simultaneously to gain comprehensive visibility immediately, and then address any performance issues as they arise. Option B. Focus solely on deploying agents that collect the most granular data, assuming that more data always leads to better process optimization, regardless of system overhead. Option C. Conduct a thorough baseline performance analysis of critical systems, followed by a staged rollout of ITM agents with granular configuration of collection intervals and data points, and continuous tuning based on observed performance and business needs. Option D. Deploy ITM agents with default configurations across all systems to ensure consistency, and disable any data collection that appears to consume excessive resources without further investigation. The correct answer is A. Implement all ITM agents across the environment simultaneously to gain comprehensive visibility immediately, and then address any performance issues as they arise. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Implementing IBM Tivoli Monitoring ITM V6.3 for process optimization presents a professional challenge due to the need to balance performance gains with the integrity and security of the monitored systems. ITM agents, while essential for data collection, can introduce overhead. Incorrect configuration or deployment can lead to inaccurate performance metrics, system instability, or even security vulnerabilities if not managed according to best practices and regulatory guidelines. The challenge lies in selecting and applying optimization techniques that are effective, compliant, and sustainable within the existing IT infrastructure and operational policies. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased implementation and continuous tuning of ITM agents and their configurations. This aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing a systematic and controlled deployment. Specifically, it involves 1. Thorough baseline performance measurement before agent deployment. 2. Staged rollout of agents to critical systems, monitoring for impact. 3. Granular configuration of collection intervals and data points to minimize overhead. 4. Regular review of collected data for anomalies and tuning of agent settings based on observed performance and business requirements. 5. Adherence to IBM's recommended practices for ITM V6.3 deployment and maintenance, which implicitly support operational stability and data integrity. This approach ensures that process optimization is achieved without compromising system availability or data accuracy, thereby meeting operational objectives and maintaining compliance with general IT governance principles that underpin effective monitoring solutions. Incorrect approaches analysis. Deploying all ITM agents simultaneously without prior baseline analysis or staged rollout is professionally unacceptable. This approach risks overwhelming monitored systems, leading to performance degradation and potentially false alerts, which undermines the purpose of monitoring. It also fails to establish a clear cause and effect relationship between ITM deployment and system behavior, making troubleshooting difficult and potentially leading to incorrect conclusions about system performance. Configuring ITM agents with default settings across all systems without considering specific workload characteristics or performance requirements is another professionally unsound approach. Default settings are often generic and may not be optimal for diverse environments, leading to excessive resource consumption by agents or insufficient data collection for critical metrics. This can result in inefficient resource utilization and missed performance insights, failing to achieve true process optimization. Disabling critical monitoring data collection to reduce agent overhead without a clear understanding of the business impact or regulatory implications is also professionally deficient. While some data points might be less critical for certain processes, arbitrarily disabling them can lead to gaps in visibility, hindering root cause analysis and potentially violating compliance requirements for audit trails or performance reporting. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence in understanding the full scope of monitoring needs. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a data-driven and risk-aware approach. This involves 1. Understanding the specific business processes and systems to be monitored. 2. Establishing clear performance objectives and key performance indicators, KPI, for the monitoring solution. 3. Conducting thorough impact assessments before deploying any new monitoring components. 4. Prioritizing a phased implementation with continuous validation and tuning. 5. Consulting IBM's official documentation and best practices for ITM v6. 6. Ensuring that all monitoring configurations are documented and aligned with organizational policies and any relevant industry standards or regulatory frameworks that govern IT operations and data integrity. Question 4. Examination of the data shows that a critical IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 agent is reporting intermittent performance degradation, impacting the ability to accurately monitor a key business application. The incident management process dictates a specific escalation path and requires documentation of all diagnostic steps and resolution attempts before any configuration changes are made to production systems. The IT professional responsible for this system is under pressure to restore full monitoring capabilities immediately. Which of the following actions best represents a professionally sound and compliant approach to resolving this issue? Option A. Immediately access the agent's configuration files and attempt to adjust performance-related parameters based on anecdotal experience, documenting the changes only after the system appears stable. Option B. Reboot the server hosting the affected Tivoli monitoring agent without consulting the incident management team or documenting the action, hoping this will resolve the underlying performance problem. Option C. Initiate a ticket in the incident management system, clearly detailing the observed symptoms, and then engage the designated IBM Tivoli monitoring support team to collaboratively diagnose and resolve the issue following established troubleshooting procedures. Option D. Temporarily disable the problematic agent and re-enable it after a short period, without logging the incident or informing any other IT personnel, to see if the issue self-corrects. The correct answer is A. Immediately access the agent's configuration files and attempt to adjust performance-related parameters based on anecdotal experience, documenting the changes only after the system appears stable. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the need for immediate issue resolution with the requirement for thorough, documented process adherence. The professional challenge lies in the pressure to restore service quickly, which can tempt individuals to bypass established procedures, potentially leading to future instability or compliance issues. Careful judgment is required to ensure that immediate actions do not compromise long-term system health or regulatory compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, documented, and collaborative response to a critical incident. By engaging the designated incident management team and following the established escalation and resolution protocols, the IT professional ensures that the issue is addressed systematically. This approach aligns with the principles of good IT governance and operational excellence, which are implicitly supported by regulatory frameworks that emphasize accountability, auditability, and risk management. Adhering to these processes minimizes the risk of introducing new errors, ensures that lessons learned are captured for future improvement, and provides a clear audit trail, which is crucial for compliance and problem resolution. An incorrect approach that involves immediately implementing a fix without proper authorization or documentation fails to meet professional standards. This bypasses the established incident management process, which is designed to prevent unintended consequences and ensure that all relevant stakeholders are informed and involved. Such an action could lead to a violation of internal IT policies and potentially external regulatory requirements if the system being monitored is subject to specific compliance mandates, e.g., data privacy, financial reporting. Lack of documentation makes it impossible to audit the resolution, understand the root cause effectively, or replicate successful fixes in the future. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to resolve the issue in isolation without consulting relevant documentation or seeking assistance from subject matter experts, demonstrates a lack of professional collaboration and reliance on established knowledge bases. This increases the risk of misdiagnosis and the application of an inappropriate solution, potentially exacerbating the problem or causing new issues. It also fails to leverage the collective expertise within the organization, which is a hallmark of effective IT operations. This can lead to prolonged downtime and increased costs, impacting business continuity and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a rapid assessment of the incident's impact, followed by immediate adherence to the organization's established incident management framework. This framework typically includes steps for incident detection, logging, categorization, prioritization, diagnosis, resolution, and closure. Professionals should be trained to recognize when an incident requires escalation and to engage the appropriate teams. Documentation and communication are critical throughout the process. If faced with a situation where existing procedures seem inadequate, the professional's responsibility is to follow them as closely as possible while simultaneously initiating a review or update of those procedures, rather than unilaterally deviating from them. Question 5. Performance analysis shows that several key applications managed by IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 are experiencing intermittent slowdowns, impacting user experience. The monitoring infrastructure itself is reporting a moderate increase in CPU utilization. What is the most effective and professional approach to diagnose and resolve these performance issues? Option A. Conduct a series of targeted investigations, starting with reviewing existing alert data and historical performance trends for the affected applications, and then enabling more granular data collection only for specific components identified as potential bottlenecks. Option B. Rely on feedback from end users and application support teams to pinpoint the exact moments and applications experiencing slowdowns, and then manually adjust monitoring thresholds based on these reports. Option C. Implement a comprehensive, high-frequency data collection policy for all managed resources and applications to capture every possible metric, and then analyze the resulting massive dataset for anomalies. Option D. Focus on upgrading the underlying hardware infrastructure supporting the Tivoli monitoring server and agents, assuming the slowdowns are due to resource contention. The correct answer is C. Implement a comprehensive, high-frequency data collection policy for all managed resources and applications to capture every possible metric, and then analyze the resulting massive dataset for anomalies. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the need for detailed performance data with the potential overhead and complexity of its collection and analysis. The professional challenge lies in identifying the most effective and efficient methods for process optimization within the constraints of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Ensuring compliance with operational best practices and potentially any internal service level agreements, SLAs, or operational guidelines that might be implicitly governed by the exam's scope. The goal is to improve system performance without introducing unnecessary complexity or resource consumption. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on targeted data collection and analysis. By identifying specific performance bottlenecks through initial, less intrusive monitoring, and then drilling down into those areas with more granular data collection, the team avoids overwhelming the system and the monitoring infrastructure. This iterative and focused methodology is efficient, cost-effective, and directly addresses the observed performance issues. It aligns with the principle of measure what matters and avoids the boiling the ocean syndrome, where excessive data collection leads to analysis paralysis and wasted resources. An incorrect approach that involves enabling comprehensive data collection for all managed resources without prior analysis is professionally unacceptable. This is because it leads to excessive data volume, increasing storage, network, and processing overhead for the Tivoli monitoring infrastructure. This can paradoxically degrade the performance of the monitoring system itself, and the sheer volume of data makes identifying true root causes difficult, leading to wasted time and resources. Ethically, it represents a failure to manage resources responsibly and efficiently. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on hardware upgrades without understanding the software or application-level performance issues, is also professionally unsound. This is a reactive and often expensive solution that fails to address the root cause if the bottleneck is not hardware-related. It can lead to significant expenditure without resolving the underlying performance problem, demonstrating a lack of analytical rigor and potentially violating internal financial governance or best practice guidelines for IT investment. A further incorrect approach, relying on anecdotal evidence or user complaints without systematic data collection, is unprofessional and unreliable. Performance issues require objective, data-driven analysis. Relying on subjective feedback can lead to misdiagnosis, wasted effort on non-existent or misidentified problems, and ultimately, a failure to meet performance objectives. This approach lacks the rigor expected of IT professionals and can erode confidence in the IT team's ability to manage and optimize systems. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. 1. Initial broad monitoring to establish a baseline and identify potential areas of concern. 2. Targeted investigation of identified anomalies using more granular data collection where necessary. 3. Root cause analysis based on collected data. 4. Implementation of solutions, followed by re-monitoring to confirm effectiveness. 5. Continuous refinement of monitoring strategies based on ongoing performance trends. Question 6. Governance review demonstrates that while IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 is effectively alerting on performance deviations, the subsequent troubleshooting process is often inefficient, leading to prolonged resolution times. Considering the need to optimize operational processes, which of the following actions best addresses this challenge by leveraging the capabilities of the Tivoli monitoring v6.3 implementation? Option A. Automatically trigger system reboots for any component that generates a performance alert to ensure rapid recovery. Option B. Disable alerts that have triggered more than twice in the past month to reduce noise and perceived workload. Option C. Conduct a thorough investigation using Tivoli Monitoring's built-in diagnostic tools to pinpoint the root cause of specific alerts before escalating or making configuration changes. Option D. Implement a policy requiring immediate escalation of all performance alerts to the vendor support team for analysis. The correct answer is D. Implement a policy requiring immediate escalation of all performance alerts to the vendor support team for analysis. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations where performance metrics, while indicating an issue, lack the context to pinpoint the root cause. The professional challenge lies in moving beyond superficial data interpretation to a systematic, evidence-based problem-solving approach. The requirement to adhere to IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 implementation guidelines and potentially broader IT governance frameworks, though not explicitly stated as a specific jurisdiction, the exam context implies adherence to best practices within that technology's ecosystem, necessitates a structured response. The risk of misdiagnosis can lead to wasted resources, prolonged system downtime, and potential noncompliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, which could have regulatory implications if the monitored systems support critical business functions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves leveraging the detailed diagnostic capabilities inherent in IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3. This means not just observing that a threshold has been breached, but actively using the tool's features to drill down into the specific components, agents, and metrics contributing to the alert. This aligns with best practices for process optimization by ensuring that interventions are targeted and effective. By examining historical data, correlating events, and analyzing the performance of individual Tivoli agents and managed resources. The root cause can be identified. This systematic investigation is crucial for optimizing the monitoring process itself, ensuring that alerts are actionable and lead to efficient resolution, thereby preventing recurrence and improving overall system stability. This methodical approach is implicitly supported by the design and intended use of IBM Tivoli monitoring, which is built for detailed diagnostics. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately escalate the issue to a higher support tier or vendor without performing initial internal diagnostics. This bypasses the primary function of the monitoring system and represents a failure to optimize internal processes. It can lead to unnecessary delays and costs, and demonstrates a lack of due diligence in troubleshooting. Ethically, it can be seen as an abdication of responsibility to properly utilize the tools provided. Another incorrect approach is to make broad, unverified configuration changes to the Tivoli monitoring environment or the monitored systems based solely on the alert. This is a reactive and potentially disruptive strategy that risks introducing new problems or masking the original issue. It fails to adhere to a principle of least change and can violate change management protocols, which are often governed by IT best practices and can have regulatory implications if systems are critical. A third incorrect approach is to dismiss the alert as a false positive without any investigation. This ignores potential system degradation and can lead to undetected issues that may escalate into more severe problems later. It represents a failure to optimize the monitoring process by not validating the alert's significance, which could have ethical implications if it leads to service disruption or data integrity issues. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the alert within the context of the IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3 environment. This involves a structured diagnostic process. 1. Acknowledge and contextualize the alert. Understand what metric has breached and its criticality. 2. Utilize Tivoli Monitoring's diagnostic tools. Drill down into the alert details, examine related events, and review historical performance data for the affected component. 3. Correlate events. Look for other alerts or system activities that occurred around the same time. 4. Isolate the affected component. Identify the specific agent, managed resource, or application exhibiting the problem. 5. Formulate a hypothesis. Based on the gathered evidence, propose a likely root cause. 6. Test the hypothesis. Implement targeted troubleshooting steps or gather further specific data. 7. Document findings and resolution. Record the process for future reference and continuous improvement. This systematic approach ensures that actions are data-driven, efficient, and aligned with best practices for IT process optimization and system management. Question 7. Analysis of the process for optimizing IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3 agent resource utilization in a production environment, considering the potential for monitoring overhead to impact application performance. Which of the following strategies best balances effective monitoring with system efficiency? Option A. Increase the polling intervals for all agents across the board to minimize their impact, assuming this will universally improve system performance. Option B. Immediately disable all non-essential monitoring agents to reduce overall system load and re-enable them only if specific incidents are reported. Option C. Systematically tune individual agent configurations, starting with those identified as high-resource consumers, by adjusting data collection intervals and probe frequencies based on observed system performance metrics and established baselines. Option D. Rely solely on the default configuration settings for all IBM Tivoli monitoring agents, as these are designed for optimal performance out of the box. Correct answer is C. Systematically tune individual agent configurations, starting with those identified as high-resource consumers, by adjusting data collection intervals and probe frequencies based on observed system performance metrics and established baselines. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the need for efficient system monitoring with the potential for performance degradation caused by the monitoring tools themselves. The IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3 implementation is designed to provide comprehensive visibility into system health and performance. However, improperly configured or overly aggressive monitoring can inadvertently consume significant system resources, impacting the very applications and services it is intended to protect. This creates a professional dilemma requiring careful judgment to ensure the monitoring solution enhances, rather than hinders, operational stability. The correct approach involves a phased, data-driven optimization strategy. This aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing system stability and service availability. It involves establishing baseline performance metrics before and after any configuration changes, utilizing granular control over monitoring agents and probes, and systematically tuning parameters based on observed impact. This methodical process ensures that monitoring is effective without causing undue overhead. Regulatory compliance, while not explicitly detailed in the exam scope for this question, implicitly supports such a diligent approach by emphasizing the need for reliable and secure IT operations, which are compromised by performance issues. An incorrect approach would be to implement broad, sweeping changes without prior analysis or baseline measurements. For example, disabling critical monitoring agents without understanding their dependencies or impact on overall system health is a significant ethical and professional failing. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and could lead to undetected critical issues, violating the implicit professional obligation to maintain system integrity. Another incorrect approach is to assume default configurations are always optimal. This demonstrates a failure to adapt the monitoring solution to the specific environment, potentially leading to resource contention and performance bottlenecks. Such an oversight can be seen as a failure to exercise professional responsibility in system management. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the existing monitoring configuration and its impact. This involves reviewing current agent settings, data collection intervals, and alert thresholds. Next, they should establish clear performance objectives for both the monitored systems and the monitoring infrastructure itself. A pilot testing phase for any proposed changes is crucial, allowing for observation and measurement in a controlled environment. Finally, a rollback plan should always be in place to revert to a stable state if unintended consequences arise. This systematic, evidence-based decision-making process ensures that the monitoring solution effectively serves its purpose without compromising system performance or stability. Question 8. The audit findings indicate that the current configuration of IBM Tivoli monitoring V6.3 may be contributing to an excessive number of informational alerts, potentially masking critical issues and leading to inefficient resource allocation within the monitoring infrastructure. Which of the following actions would best address this finding while adhering to best practices for process optimization in IT operations? Option A. Increase the frequency of manual log reviews by system administrators to manually filter out informational alerts and identify potential critical issues. Option B. Temporarily disable monitoring for non-critical components to reduce the overall alert volume until a future system-wide upgrade can be implemented. Option C. Defer any configuration changes until the next scheduled major upgrade of the IBM Tivoli monitoring V6.3 environment to avoid introducing complexity. Option D. Review and adjust data collection intervals and alert thresholds for specific Tivoli enterprise management agents to reduce informational noise and improve the signal-to-noise ratio of critical alerts. The correct answer is D. Review and adjust data collection intervals and alert thresholds for specific Tivoli enterprise management agents to reduce informational noise and improve the signal-to-noise ratio of critical alerts. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the audit findings highlight a potential gap in process optimization related to IBM Tivoli monitoring V6.3 implementation, which could impact operational efficiency, resource utilization, and potentially compliance with internal service level agreements, SLAs, or even external regulatory requirements if the monitored systems are subject to them. The core of the challenge lies in identifying the most effective and compliant method to address these findings without introducing new risks or inefficiencies. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for improvement with the stability and integrity of the monitoring environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the audit findings by leveraging the capabilities of IBM Tivoli monitoring V6.3 for proactive problem identification and resolution. This aligns with the principles of efficient system management and continuous improvement, which are often implicitly or explicitly supported by IT governance frameworks. By focusing on optimizing the data collection intervals and alert thresholds, The team is making data-driven adjustments that are likely to reduce false positives, improve response times to genuine issues, and ensure that monitoring resources are used effectively. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of system degradation or outages, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the monitored environment and the services it supports. This approach is ethically sound, as it prioritizes the reliable functioning of critical IT infrastructure. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on increasing the frequency of manual checks by administrators is professionally unacceptable. This is because it introduces a significant human element, increasing the likelihood of errors, inconsistencies, and burnout. It is also inherently inefficient, consuming valuable administrator time that could be better spent on strategic tasks. From a regulatory perspective, relying on manual processes can be seen as a failure to implement robust, automated controls, which could be a violation of IT governance standards or specific compliance mandates if the monitored systems are subject to them. Another incorrect approach, which involves disabling certain monitoring components to reduce the volume of data, is also professionally unacceptable. This is a reactive and potentially dangerous measure that sacrifices visibility for the sake of reducing noise. It directly contradicts the purpose of a monitoring system, which is to provide comprehensive insight into system health and performance. Such an action could lead to undetected critical issues, resulting in service disruptions, data loss, and significant financial or reputational damage. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to maintain a functional and informative monitoring system. Furthermore, it could violate regulatory requirements that mandate specific levels of system monitoring and logging. A third incorrect approach, which involves deferring any action until a major system upgrade is planned, is professionally weak. While major upgrades can offer opportunities for optimization, deferring necessary improvements based on current audit findings is a missed opportunity for immediate risk mitigation and efficiency gains. It suggests a lack of proactive problem solving and can lead to a prolonged period of suboptimal monitoring, increasing the risk of incidents. This passive approach can be viewed as a failure to uphold professional responsibility for maintaining the current operational environment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the audit findings, a clear assessment of the risks associated with the current state, and an evaluation of potential solutions against established IT best practices and any applicable regulatory frameworks. This includes considering the impact on system performance, resource utilization, operational efficiency, and the overall integrity of the monitoring solution. Prioritizing solutions that are proactive, data-driven, and leverage the inherent capabilities of the implemented technology, like IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Is crucial for effective and compliant IT operations. Question 9. The risk matrix shows that inadequate monitoring coverage poses a high risk of undetected system failures, while excessive monitoring overhead can lead to performance degradation and instability. Considering the implementation of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Which approach best balances these competing risks to optimize operational processes? Option A. Implement comprehensive monitoring for all available metrics across all systems immediately to ensure no potential issue is missed, and address any performance impacts as they arise. Option B. Prioritize monitoring of critical systems and core application functions first, using baseline performance data to tune agent resource utilization and data collection intervals, and gradually expand coverage based on risk assessment and observed impact. Option C. Disable monitoring on systems exhibiting high resource utilization by Tivoli monitoring agents, assuming the overhead is the primary cause of performance issues, without further investigation into the necessity of that monitoring. Option D. Focus on generating the maximum number of alerts from the monitoring system to ensure all potential anomalies are flagged, regardless of their direct correlation to critical business functions or observed system impact. The correct answer is A. Implement comprehensive monitoring for all available metrics across all systems immediately to ensure no potential issue is missed, and address any performance impacts as they arise. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the need for robust monitoring with the potential for performance degradation caused by the monitoring system itself. The risk matrix highlights that while inadequate monitoring, low coverage, poses a significant risk of undetected issues, overly aggressive monitoring, high overhead, can introduce new problems, impacting the very systems it's meant to protect. The professional challenge lies in selecting a monitoring strategy that effectively mitigates operational risks without introducing unacceptable new ones, requiring a nuanced understanding of system dependencies and resource utilization within the IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. Framework. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a phased, risk-based approach to implementing and tuning IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. This means starting with essential monitoring components that address the highest identified risks, e.g., critical system health, core application availability, and gradually expanding coverage. Crucially, this approach mandates continuous performance monitoring of the Tivoli monitoring infrastructure itself and the monitored systems. Regular review of the monitoring agent overhead, data collection intervals, and alert thresholds, coupled with performance baselining, allows for informed adjustments. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and efficient resource allocation, ensuring the monitoring solution enhances, rather than hinders, operational stability. In the context of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. This translates to leveraging its configuration capabilities to selectively enable or disable monitoring probes, adjust sampling rates, and optimize agent resource usage based on observed impact. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing comprehensive monitoring across all potential metrics from the outset, without prior risk assessment or performance profiling, is a significant failure. This approach ignores the potential for high overhead, directly contradicting the risk matrix's warning about performance degradation. It leads to inefficient resource consumption, potentially impacting application performance and increasing operational costs, without a clear justification based on identified risks. Disabling monitoring on critical systems due to perceived overhead without a thorough analysis of the actual impact and the risks of undetected failures is another failure. This prioritizes perceived efficiency over essential risk mitigation, leaving the organization vulnerable to significant operational disruptions that could have been prevented. It fails to acknowledge the primary purpose of a monitoring system. Focusing solely on the number of alerts generated without correlating them to actual system impact or business risk is also professionally unsound. An excessive alert volume can lead to alert fatigue, where critical issues are overlooked. This approach fails to optimize the monitoring system for actionable intelligence, instead creating noise that obscures genuine problems. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization in IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. By first understanding the specific business and operational risks. This involves consulting the risk matrix and conducting a thorough assessment of critical systems and applications. The next step is to define clear monitoring objectives tied to these risks. Implementation should be iterative, starting with high-priority areas and gradually expanding. Continuous performance monitoring of both the monitored systems and the Tivoli monitoring infrastructure is paramount. Regular tuning based on data and observed impact is essential. Professionals should always ask, does this monitoring configuration effectively reduce identified risks without introducing unacceptable new ones? And is the resource consumption of the monitoring system justified by the risks it mitigates? Question 10. Research into the implementation of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. Reveals a critical need to secure buy-in from various organizational stakeholders. Considering the diverse perspectives of IT operations, business unit managers, and executive leadership, which approach best ensures the successful adoption and perceived value of the monitoring solution. Option A. Focus on demonstrating how IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. Directly contributes to key business objectives, such as improved service availability, reduced downtime costs, and enhanced customer satisfaction, tailoring the communication of these benefits to the specific interests of each stakeholder group. Option B. Initiate the full implementation of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. And then conduct post-implementation reviews to gather feedback from stakeholders on their experience with the new system. Option C. Present a comprehensive technical roadmap of the IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. Implementation, including detailed architecture diagrams and deployment schedules, to all stakeholder groups, regardless of their technical background. Option D. Emphasize the technical specifications and advanced features of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. To the IT operations team, while presenting a high-level overview of system stability improvements to executive leadership. Correct answer is D. Emphasize the technical specifications and advanced features of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. To the IT operations team, while presenting a high-level overview of system stability improvements to executive leadership. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the immediate need for system stability with the long-term strategic goals of an organization, particularly when implementing new monitoring solutions like IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. The professional challenge lies in effectively communicating the value and impact of the monitoring solution to diverse stakeholders, each with their own priorities and understanding of technical concepts. Misalignment in understanding can lead to resistance, underutilization of the tool, and ultimately, failure to achieve the desired return on investment. Careful judgment is required to tailor communication and engagement strategies to resonate with each stakeholder group. The correct approach, focusing on demonstrating tangible benefits and aligning with business objectives, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core concerns of stakeholders. By illustrating how IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 can improve system uptime, reduce operational costs, and enhance service delivery, it provides a clear business case. This approach fosters buy-in and ensures that the implementation is viewed not just as a technical project, but as a strategic enabler. This aligns with professional ethics by promoting transparency, accountability, and responsible resource management, ensuring that technology investments deliver measurable value. An incorrect approach that prioritizes technical jargon and feature lists over business outcomes fails to connect with non-technical stakeholders. This can lead to confusion, disinterest, and a perception that the monitoring solution is an unnecessary burden. Ethically, this approach is flawed as it does not adequately inform decision-makers about the true value proposition, potentially leading to misallocated resources or missed opportunities. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on the implementation team's perspective, without considering the broader organizational impact or user experience, neglects crucial aspects of successful technology adoption. This can result in a solution that is technically sound but difficult to integrate into existing workflows, or that fails to address the actual needs of end users and business units. This represents a failure in professional responsibility to deliver a holistic and effective solution. A further incorrect approach that delays stakeholder engagement until after the implementation is a significant professional misstep. This reactive strategy often leads to the discovery of unmet needs or unexpected challenges late in the project lifecycle, causing costly rework and damaging stakeholder relationships. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to proactively manage risks and expectations, which are fundamental to professional project management and IT implementation. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured stakeholder analysis, identifying key individuals and groups, their interests, and their influence. This should be followed by a clear communication plan that translates technical capabilities into business benefits, using language appropriate for each audience. Proactive engagement, seeking feedback, and demonstrating progress through pilot programs or phased rollouts are crucial for building trust and ensuring successful adoption. Question 11. The control framework reveals that the implementation of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 must not only ensure operational efficiency, but also meet stringent data governance and auditability standards mandated by relevant industry regulations. Considering the stakeholder perspective, which approach best ensures that the deployed monitoring solution will satisfy these compliance obligations from inception? Option A. Focus the implementation solely on technical performance metrics and system availability, deferring any discussions or configurations related to data retention or audit trails until after the system is fully operational. Option B. Prioritize the rapid deployment of IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 to achieve immediate operational visibility, with the understanding that compliance-related configurations can be addressed and remediated in subsequent phases. Option C. Proactively engage with compliance and audit stakeholders to define and integrate specific data retention, access control, and audit trail requirements into the implementation plan, ensuring alignment with applicable regulatory mandates. Option D. Implement the monitoring system based on standard IT operational best practices and security defaults, assuming that these will inherently satisfy most compliance requirements without direct stakeholder consultation. The correct answer is C. Proactively engage with compliance and audit stakeholders to define and integrate specific data retention, access control, and audit trail requirements into the implementation plan, ensuring alignment with applicable regulatory mandates. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations where a critical monitoring system, IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3, is being implemented. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for system functionality with the long-term implications of data integrity and compliance. Stakeholders, particularly those in compliance and audit roles, have specific requirements that must be met for regulatory adherence. Failure to adequately address these requirements during implementation can lead to significant audit findings, potential penalties, and a lack of trust in the monitoring system's ability to provide accurate and reliable data for compliance purposes. The pressure to deploy quickly can often overshadow the meticulous planning required for robust data governance and security. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves proactively engaging with compliance and audit stakeholders to understand their specific data retention, access control, and audit trail requirements as defined by relevant regulatory frameworks applicable to the exam's jurisdiction, which is assumed to be U.S.-based for C2010-507 IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 implementation, implying adherence to U.S. regulations like SOX, HIPAA, or PCI DSS as applicable to the industry. This engagement ensures that the IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 implementation is designed from the outset to meet these mandates. Specifically, it means configuring data retention policies according to regulatory dictates, establishing granular access controls to sensitive performance and security data, and ensuring that all system changes and data access events are logged comprehensively for auditability. This approach represents best professional practice because it embeds compliance into the system's design, preventing costly remediation efforts later and ensuring the system's output is trusted for regulatory reporting. It aligns with the principle of security and compliance by design. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing rapid deployment and assuming that compliance requirements can be retrofitted later. This is professionally unacceptable because it disregards the fundamental principle of compliance by design. Regulatory failures include potential violations of data retention mandates, e.g. SOX requires specific retention periods for financial data, inadequate access controls leading to unauthorized data access, violating principles of data privacy and security, and insufficient audit trails, which are critical for demonstrating compliance during audits. Another incorrect approach is to implement the system based solely on IT operational needs without consulting compliance or audit teams. This leads to a system that may function technically, but fails to meet external regulatory obligations. The regulatory failure here is a direct breach of compliance requirements, as the system's configuration and data handling practices will not have been validated against specific mandates. This can result in significant audit findings and potential legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach is to implement generic security settings without understanding the specific compliance context. While some security measures are universally good practice, compliance often dictates very specific configurations for data handling, logging, and retention that generic settings may not address. This can lead to a false sense of security, while actual regulatory gaps remain unaddressed, resulting in compliance failures. Professional reasoning. Professionals implementing IT systems like IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 must adopt a proactive and collaborative approach to compliance. The decision-making process should begin with identifying all applicable regulatory frameworks. This is followed by early and continuous engagement with compliance, audit, and legal departments to translate these frameworks into specific technical requirements for the monitoring solution. During the design and implementation phases, these requirements must be explicitly addressed in system configuration, data management policies, and access control mechanisms. Post-implementation, regular reviews and audits should be conducted to ensure ongoing adherence. This systematic approach minimizes risk, ensures the integrity and trustworthiness of the monitoring data, and builds confidence among all stakeholders, especially those responsible for regulatory oversight. Question 12. Operational review demonstrates that various business units are independently requesting specific monitoring capabilities for their critical applications, leading to potential fragmentation in the deployment of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Which approach best balances immediate operational needs with the strategic goals of a unified monitoring framework? Option A. Focus solely on implementing the core infrastructure monitoring capabilities of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Deferring specific application-level monitoring requests to a later, undefined phase. Option B. Prioritize a comprehensive stakeholder engagement process to gather all diverse monitoring requirements, then develop a unified implementation strategy for IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. That addresses critical needs while establishing standardized configurations and policies. Option C. Allow each business unit to independently configure and deploy their own IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Agents and dashboards based on their perceived immediate needs. Option D. Immediately implement the most frequently requested monitoring features across all business units to provide rapid, albeit potentially inconsistent, coverage. Correct answer is B. Prioritize a comprehensive stakeholder engagement process to gather all diverse monitoring requirements, then develop a unified implementation strategy for IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. That addresses critical needs while establishing standardized configurations and policies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between immediate operational needs and long-term strategic alignment, particularly when implementing a new monitoring solution like IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. The challenge lies in balancing the urgent requests from different business units for specific monitoring capabilities with the need to establish a standardized, efficient, and compliant monitoring framework. Careful judgment is required to avoid creating a fragmented and unmanageable monitoring environment that could lead to increased costs, security vulnerabilities, and compliance issues. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, stakeholder-driven process that aligns with the overarching goals of the IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Implementation. By engaging all relevant stakeholders, understanding their diverse requirements, and then developing a unified strategy, the implementation team ensures that the monitoring solution addresses critical business needs while adhering to established IT governance and operational standards. This proactive engagement fosters buy-in, reduces the risk of scope creep, and ensures that the deployed solution is both effective and sustainable. This aligns with the principles of IT service management and good governance, which emphasize clear communication, defined processes, and alignment with business objectives. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on fulfilling immediate, ad hoc requests without a broader strategic framework would be professionally unacceptable. This would likely lead to a proliferation of disparate monitoring configurations, making it difficult to manage, troubleshoot, and report on the overall health of the IT infrastructure. Such an approach could also introduce security risks if monitoring agents or configurations are not properly vetted and secured, potentially violating internal security policies and industry best practices for data protection. Furthermore, it would likely result in duplicated efforts and increased operational overhead, failing to leverage the full capabilities of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. For centralized management and reporting. Another incorrect approach, which involves implementing a one-size-fits-all solution without considering the unique needs of different business units, would also be professionally unsound. While standardization is important, a rigid, unyielding approach can alienate stakeholders and lead to the perception that the monitoring solution is not meeting critical business requirements. This can result in workarounds that bypass the official monitoring system, undermining its effectiveness and creating shadow IT. Ethically, it fails to adequately serve the needs of the business units that rely on the monitoring system for their operations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach. 1. Discovery and requirements gathering. Actively engage with all key stakeholders across different business units to understand their current monitoring challenges, critical applications, and desired outcomes from IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. 2. Gap analysis and strategy development. Analyze the gathered requirements against the capabilities of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. An existing infrastructure. Develop a strategic plan that outlines a standardized approach, identifies areas for customization, and prioritizes implementation based on business criticality and risk. 3. Solution design and configuration. Design the monitoring solution architecture and configure agents and policies to meet both standardized requirements and specific stakeholder needs, ensuring security and compliance are integrated from the outset. 4. Phased implementation and validation. Roll out the monitoring solution in phases, with thorough testing and validation at each stage. Gather feedback from stakeholders and make necessary adjustments. 5. Ongoing management and optimization. Establish processes for ongoing monitoring, maintenance, and optimization of the IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3 environment, including regular reviews with stakeholders, to ensure continued alignment with business objectives. Question 13. Which approach would be most effective in managing the implementation of an IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3 update, considering the need to balance system stability, security enhancements, and stakeholder expectations? Option A. Postponing the update indefinitely until a period of guaranteed zero operational impact can be identified. Option B. Immediate deployment of the update across all production systems to ensure all components are protected by the latest security patches as quickly as possible. Option C. A phased rollout strategy, starting with pilot testing in a non-production environment, followed by a controlled deployment to a subset of production systems, and then a full production rollout. Option D. Implementing the update based solely on the urgency communicated by the security team, without consulting other operational or business stakeholders. The correct answer is C. A phased rollout strategy, starting with pilot testing in a non-production environment, followed by a controlled deployment to a subset of production systems, and then a full production rollout. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management where a critical monitoring system, IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6.3, needs to be updated. Challenge lies in balancing the need for system stability and operational continuity with the imperative to implement necessary security patches and performance enhancements. Stakeholders, including IT operations, security teams, and business unit representatives, will have differing priorities and risk tolerances. The IT operations team may prioritize minimal disruption, while the security team will emphasize the urgency of patching vulnerabilities. Business units will be concerned with any potential downtime impacting their services. Navigating these competing interests requires a structured and transparent approach to ensure all concerns are addressed and the implementation proceeds smoothly and with minimal risk. The correct approach involves a phased rollout strategy, beginning with a pilot deployment in a non-production environment, followed by a controlled rollout to a subset of production systems, and finally, a full production deployment. This methodology is best professional practice because it aligns with the principles of risk management and change control, which are implicitly supported by IT governance frameworks and best practices for system deployments. By testing in a controlled environment, potential issues can be identified and resolved before impacting the broader production environment. This minimizes the risk of widespread service disruption, data loss, or security breaches, thereby safeguarding business operations and maintaining stakeholder confidence. This approach demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to system integrity. An incorrect approach would be to immediately deploy the update across all production systems without prior testing. This fails to acknowledge the inherent risks associated with software updates, particularly in a complex monitoring environment. Such a reckless deployment could lead to unforeseen compatibility issues, performance degradation, or outright system failures, directly impacting critical business functions and potentially leading to significant financial losses or reputational damage. This approach demonstrates a disregard for established change management protocols and a failure to adequately assess and mitigate risks, which is professionally unacceptable. Another incorrect approach would be to delay the update indefinitely due to fear of disruption, without any plan for mitigation or phased implementation. While seemingly cautious, this inaction leaves the monitoring system vulnerable to known security threats and prevents the realization of performance benefits. This failure to address known risks and implement necessary improvements constitutes a dereliction of duty in maintaining system security and efficiency, which is professionally unsound and could expose the organization to significant security liabilities. A third incorrect approach would be to implement the updates solely based on the recommendations of a single stakeholder group, such as the security team, without considering the operational impact or obtaining broader stakeholder buy-in. This siloed decision-making process ignores the interconnectedness of IT systems and business operations. It can lead to resentment, resistance from other teams, and ultimately, a failed or poorly adopted implementation. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a collaborative approach, involving all relevant stakeholders to ensure a balanced and comprehensive strategy that considers all perspectives and potential impacts. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment, a clear understanding of stakeholder requirements and concerns, and the development of a detailed implementation plan that includes rollback procedures. Communication and transparency throughout the process are paramount. Engaging stakeholders early and often, providing clear updates, and actively seeking feedback will foster trust and facilitate a smoother transition. Question 14. The review process indicates that the finance department has requested a specific, custom reporting capability for their critical month-end processes that they believe cannot be met by the standard IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3 reporting features. The project manager needs to decide how to address this request to ensure stakeholder satisfaction, while adhering to the implementation plan and best practices for Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. Which of the following approaches best balances these competing demands? Option A. Engage the finance department stakeholder to thoroughly understand their specific reporting requirements, and then collaboratively explore how these needs can be met using the configurable reporting and dashboarding capabilities within IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. Or by developing a compliant integration if absolutely necessary, following a formal change control process. Option B. Inform the finance department that their request falls outside the scope of the IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3 implementation, and that they will need to find an alternative solution for their reporting needs. Option C. Agree to implement a bespoke reporting tool for the finance department, prioritizing their immediate needs over the standardized approach of IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. And document this deviation as a known technical debt. Option D. Immediately develop a custom reporting solution for the finance department, as their request is critical for month-end processes, and address integration and compliance concerns later to avoid delaying their immediate needs. The correct answer is A. Engage the finance department stakeholder to thoroughly understand their specific reporting requirements, and then collaboratively explore how these needs can be met using the configurable reporting and dashboarding capabilities within IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. Or by developing a compliant integration if absolutely necessary, following a formal change control process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT implementation projects, balancing the immediate needs of a critical business unit with the long-term strategic goals and resource constraints of the organization. The stakeholder from the finance department is advocating for a solution that directly addresses their immediate reporting requirements, potentially overlooking broader integration needs or the standardized approach mandated by the Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. Implementation plan. Challenge lies in managing stakeholder expectations, ensuring alignment with project objectives, and preventing scope creep that could jeopardize the project's success and compliance with IBM's recommended practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves engaging the stakeholder to understand their specific reporting needs, and then demonstrating how these needs can be met within the established framework of IBM Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. This approach upholds best professional practice by prioritizing a standardized, scalable, and maintainable monitoring solution. It aligns with the principles of effective IT implementation by ensuring that the chosen tools and configurations are consistent across the organization, facilitating easier management, troubleshooting, and future upgrades. Furthermore, it respects the project's governance and the expertise of the implementation team by guiding the stakeholder towards solutions that are technically sound and align with the overall architecture, rather than allowing ad hoc customizations that could lead to technical debt and increased operational costs. This method also fosters collaboration and builds trust by showing a willingness to accommodate legitimate business needs within the project's constraints. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a custom solution solely for the finance department without proper evaluation or integration planning represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses the established implementation guidelines for Tivoli monitoring V6. 3. potentially leading to a non-compliant or unsupported configuration. This ad hoc approach can introduce security vulnerabilities, complicate future patching and upgrades, and create data silos that hinder enterprise-wide visibility. Ethically, it prioritizes one department's immediate demand over the organization's long-term stability and the integrity of the monitoring infrastructure. Ignoring the stakeholders' request entirely, even if their proposed solution is not ideal, is also professionally unacceptable. It demonstrates a lack of stakeholder management and can lead to dissatisfaction, a perception of the IT team being unresponsive, and potential workarounds being implemented outside of IT control, which can be even more problematic. This approach fails to acknowledge the business value the stakeholder is trying to achieve and can damage interdepartmental relationships. Committing to a custom solution without a thorough impact assessment or a change request process is a failure to adhere to project management best practices and potentially organizational governance policies. It can lead to uncontrolled scope creep, budget overruns, and delays for the core implementation. This approach lacks due diligence and risks introducing unforeseen technical challenges or conflicts with other system components. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first actively listening to and understanding the stakeholders' requirements. This should be followed by a clear explanation of the project's scope, objectives, and the capabilities of the chosen technology, IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. As per the implementation plan. The next step involves collaboratively exploring how the stakeholders' needs can be met within the existing framework, potentially through configuration, custom dashboards, or reporting tools that integrate with the core monitoring solution. If a deviation is truly necessary, a formal change request process should be initiated, including a detailed impact assessment on cost, schedule, resources, and overall system integrity. This structured approach ensures that decisions are data-driven, aligned with project goals, and maintain the integrity and compliance of the implemented solution. Question 15. The analysis reveals that a financial institution is implementing IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3. To enhance the oversight of its critical transaction processing servers. Given the sensitive nature of the data and the stringent uptime requirements, the implementation team must decide on the most appropriate strategy for deploying monitoring agents to these production servers. Option A. Deploy monitoring agents to all production transaction processing servers simultaneously after a brief internal review of the agent configuration. Option B. Prioritize deploying agents to the most critical servers first, bypassing standard change control procedures to ensure immediate visibility. Option C. Conduct a pilot deployment of monitoring agents on a subset of non-production servers to validate performance and configuration, followed by a phased rollout to production servers with rigorous change control approvals. Option D. Install monitoring agents on production servers during peak transaction hours to observe their immediate impact on live operations. The correct answer is A. Deploy monitoring agents to all production transaction processing servers simultaneously after a brief internal review of the agent configuration. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in IT infrastructure management, balancing the need for comprehensive monitoring with the practical constraints of resource allocation and potential impact on production systems. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and compliant method for deploying IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6. 3 agents to monitor critical financial transaction processing servers. This requires a deep understanding of the IBM Tivoli monitoring architecture, agent deployment strategies, and the regulatory landscape governing financial data security and system availability. The correct approach involves a phased, risk-assessed deployment strategy that prioritizes critical systems and minimizes disruption. This aligns with best practices for system stability and compliance, specifically deploying the monitoring agents in a controlled manner, starting with non-production environments or less critical systems, allows for thorough testing and validation of the monitoring configuration and its impact on system performance. This proactive approach ensures that the monitoring solution itself does not introduce vulnerabilities or performance degradation to the production environment, which is paramount in a regulated industry like finance. Adhering to change management protocols and obtaining necessary approvals before deploying to production systems is a fundamental aspect of IT governance and regulatory compliance, ensuring auditability and accountability. An incorrect approach would be to deploy monitoring agents indiscriminately across all servers without prior testing or risk assessment. This could lead to unforeseen performance issues, system instability, or even service outages, which would be a direct violation of service-level agreements and potentially regulatory requirements related to system availability and data integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to bypass established change control procedures. This undermines the integrity of the IT infrastructure management process, creates security risks, and makes it difficult to track and audit changes, which is a significant compliance failure in regulated environments. Finally, failing to adequately test the monitoring configuration before production deployment could result in inaccurate data collection or excessive resource consumption, impacting the very systems intended to be monitored and potentially leading to misinformed operational decisions, which is a professional and ethical lapse. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of the business requirements and regulatory obligations. This involves assessing the criticality of the systems to be monitored, evaluating the potential impact of the monitoring solution on system performance and security, and developing a phased deployment plan. Collaboration with system owners, security teams, and compliance officers is essential to ensure all concerns are addressed. Rigorous testing in a controlled environment, followed by a carefully managed production rollout with rollback capabilities, represents the most professional and compliant path forward. Question 16. The control framework reveals that the IT operations manager is responsible for implementing IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. To enhance system oversight. Given the diverse needs of various business units and the organization's commitment to regulatory compliance, which implementation strategy best balances operational efficiency, stakeholder satisfaction, and adherence to governance requirements? Option A. Focus initial efforts on addressing the monitoring requests from the most vocal business unit leaders to ensure immediate stakeholder buy-in and perceived responsiveness. Option B. Implement monitoring for all systems that are technically feasible to monitor, regardless of immediate business criticality or specific regulatory mandates, to ensure comprehensive data collection from the outset. Option C. Defer the full implementation of IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Until all potential complexities and resource constraints are fully resolved, to ensure a perfect, albeit delayed, deployment. Option D. Prioritize the implementation of monitoring for critical business systems and those with explicit regulatory reporting requirements, followed by a phased rollout to other systems based on a risk assessment of potential operational impact. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the implementation of monitoring for critical business systems and those with explicit regulatory reporting requirements, followed by a phased rollout to other systems based on a risk assessment of potential operational impact. Explanation: the control framework reveals a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the need for robust monitoring with the practical constraints of resource allocation and stakeholder expectations. In this scenario, the IT operations manager is tasked with implementing IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. A critical component for maintaining system health and performance. The challenge lies in translating the broad requirements of various stakeholders into a concrete, actionable monitoring strategy that aligns with both technical capabilities and regulatory compliance. The manager must consider not only what can be monitored, but also what should be monitored, based on business criticality, potential impact of failures, and the specific compliance mandates relevant to the organization's industry. The correct approach prioritizes a phased implementation driven by business impact and regulatory requirements. This aligns with best practices for IT service management and regulatory adherence. By first identifying critical systems and the specific data points required for compliance and operational stability, the manager ensures that the most important aspects are covered. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of overlooking crucial monitoring needs, thereby preventing potential compliance breaches or significant operational disruptions. It also allows for efficient resource allocation, focusing initial efforts on high-priority areas. This strategy directly supports the principle of least privilege in monitoring, ensuring that data collection is purposeful and justified, which is often a consideration in data privacy regulations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical feasibility without considering business criticality or regulatory mandates is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the monitoring of non-essential systems or data, wasting resources and potentially creating noise that obscures critical alerts. From a regulatory perspective, failing to monitor specific metrics required by compliance frameworks, e.g., audit logs, access controls, performance thresholds for regulated services, constitutes a direct violation, exposing the organization to fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, which is to implement monitoring based on the loudest stakeholders' demands without a structured assessment, is also professionally unsound. This reactive strategy can lead to a fragmented and inefficient monitoring system, driven by individual preferences rather than overarching business and compliance needs. It risks over-monitoring less critical areas, while under-monitoring those with significant regulatory implications. This haphazard implementation can also lead to alert fatigue, where genuine critical alerts are missed due to the sheer volume of less important notifications. Finally, an approach that delays implementation due to perceived complexity without a clear plan for addressing it is professionally negligent. While complexity is a factor, a responsible IT manager must develop a strategy to overcome it, potentially through phased rollouts, targeted training, or seeking expert assistance. Indefinite delays in implementing essential monitoring tools can leave systems vulnerable and expose the organization to compliance risks that are preventable. The professional decision-making process should involve a thorough understanding of the organization's business objectives, risk appetite, and all applicable regulatory requirements. This understanding should then be mapped to the capabilities of IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6. 3. A risk-based approach, prioritizing monitoring based on the potential impact of system failures and the severity of regulatory noncompliance, is paramount. Engaging with key stakeholders from business units, compliance, and security teams early in the planning process is crucial to ensure all critical needs are identified and addressed. A phased implementation plan, starting with the most critical systems and compliance-driven metrics, allows for iterative refinement and ensures that value is delivered progressively. Question 17. Compliance review shows that the IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6. 3 implementation plan includes deploying monitoring agents across a diverse set of servers, ranging from highly critical production databases to less critical development environments. The implementation team is debating the most effective strategy for rolling out these agents to ensure optimal monitoring without negatively impacting system performance. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for implementing IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6? 3 in this scenario. Option A. Implement monitoring agents on all servers concurrently to ensure comprehensive coverage from day one. Option B. Focus solely on deploying agents to servers with the lowest resource utilization to minimize any potential performance impact. Option C. Deploy monitoring agents only to critical production servers and postpone deployment to development and testing environments indefinitely. Option D. Prioritize the deployment of monitoring agents to critical production servers first, followed by a phased rollout to less critical environments, with performance testing at each stage. The correct answer is A. Implement monitoring agents on all servers concurrently to ensure comprehensive coverage from day one. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT system implementation, balancing the need for robust monitoring with the practical constraints of resource allocation and potential impact on system performance. The challenge lies in making a decision that is technically sound, compliant with IBM Tivoli Monitoring v6. 3 implementation guidelines, and also considers the business's operational realities. The decision requires a nuanced understanding of the monitoring agent's capabilities, the criticality of the monitored application, and the potential for performance degradation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, risk-based implementation. This aligns with standard IT project management methodologies and the principles of effective system deployment. By first implementing monitoring on critical systems and then expanding, the team ensures that the most vital components are protected and that potential issues are identified early. This approach minimizes the risk of widespread disruption and allows for iterative refinement of the monitoring strategy based on observed performance. It also demonstrates due diligence in understanding the impact of new technology before full-scale deployment, a key tenet of responsible IT governance. An incorrect approach that involves deploying all monitoring agents simultaneously without prior testing or prioritization would be professionally unacceptable. This would violate the principle of controlled deployment and risk overwhelming the production environment, potentially leading to performance issues or even outages. This failure could be seen as a breach of professional responsibility to ensure system stability. Another incorrect approach, such as delaying the deployment of monitoring for non-critical systems indefinitely, would be a failure to adhere to the comprehensive monitoring strategy implied by the implementation of IBM Tivoli monitoring. This could leave the organization vulnerable to undetected issues in those systems, representing a lapse in risk management and potentially a violation of internal security or operational policies. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on the lowest cost option for agent deployment without considering the technical requirements or potential impact, would be a failure of due diligence and a disregard for the technical integrity of the monitoring solution. This prioritizes cost over effectiveness and risk mitigation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that involves 1. Clearly defining the objectives of the monitoring implementation. 2. Assessing the criticality of each component to be monitored. 3. Evaluating the resource requirements and potential performance impact of the monitoring agents. 4. Developing a phased deployment plan that prioritizes critical systems. 5. Conducting pilot testing where feasible. And 6. Establishing clear rollback procedures. This structured approach ensures that decisions are data-driven, risk-aware, and aligned with both technical best practices and business needs. Question 18. During the evaluation of a critical performance degradation issue within the IBM Tivoli Monitoring V6.3 environment, a junior administrator proposes an immediate, undocumented configuration change to a core monitoring agent to restore service. This change has not been reviewed by the security team or documented in the change management system. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Reject the proposed change outright due to lack of documentation and escalate the performance issue to a higher support tier without offering an alternative solution. Option B. Proceed with the undocumented change, but instruct the junior administrator to monitor the system closely for any adverse effects. Option C. Escalate the issue to the senior ITM administrator and security team, requesting an urgent review of the proposed change and a documented, risk-assessed solution, even if it means a temporary period of degraded performance. Option D. Implement the proposed change immediately to restore service, and document it retrospectively after the system is stable. The correct answer is D. Implement the proposed change immediately to restore service and document it retrospectively after the system is stable. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the immediate need for system availability with the long-term implications of security and compliance. The core of the challenge lies in the potential conflict between operational expediency and adherence to established IBM Tivoli monitoring, IBM, V6.3 implementation guidelines and best practices, which are implicitly tied to regulatory frameworks governing data integrity and system security. The correct approach prioritizes a structured, documented, and risk-assessed decision-making process. This aligns with professional IT governance principles that mandate due diligence and adherence to established procedures, involving relevant stakeholders, conducting a thorough impact analysis, and documenting the rationale. The chosen solution demonstrates a commitment to maintaining system integrity and auditability. This proactive stance is crucial for demonstrating compliance with any underlying regulatory requirements that mandate secure and reliable IT operations, even if not explicitly stated in the exam scope. The emphasis on a rollback plan further reinforces a professional approach to managing change and mitigating potential negative consequences. An incorrect approach that bypasses established change control procedures and documentation risks introducing vulnerabilities or operational instability. This could lead to non-compliance with internal policies and potentially external regulations that require auditable change logs and risk assessments for system modifications. The failure to involve security or compliance teams, or to adequately assess the impact on data integrity, represents a significant ethical and professional lapse. Such actions can lead to data breaches, system downtime, and reputational damage, all of which have direct financial and legal ramifications. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate fix without considering the broader implications of the ITM V6.3 implementation can lead to technical debt and future operational issues. This short-sightedness neglects the importance of a holistic system view, which is essential for maintaining a robust and compliant monitoring infrastructure. The failure to consider long-term maintainability and potential conflicts with future updates or integrations is a hallmark of unprofessional IT management. The professional reasoning framework for such situations involves a systematic approach. 1. Identify the problem and its immediate impact. 2. Gather all relevant information, including system logs, configuration details, and known issues. 3. Consult established ITM v6, 3 implementation guidelines and best practices. 4. Engage relevant stakeholders, e.g., operations, security, compliance, application owners. 5. Conduct a thorough impact analysis considering technical, security, and operational aspects. 6. Evaluate potential solutions, assessing their risks, benefits, and feasibility. 7. Develop a clear plan including implementation steps, rollback procedures, and testing protocols. 8. Obtain necessary approvals through formal change management processes. 9. Implement the chosen solution with meticulous attention to detail. 10. Monitor the system post-implementation and document all actions and outcomes. Question 19. The performance metrics show a consistent, albeit minor, increase in response times for a critical application component monitored by IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. This trend has been observed over the past 48 hours, and while it has not yet triggered any critical alerts or breached defined thresholds, it deviates from the established baseline performance. What is the most prudent course of action to address this situation? Option A. Immediately restart the application component to clear any potential transient issues that might be contributing to the observed performance increase. Option B. Initiate a detailed investigation into the underlying causes of the performance degradation, correlating the observed metrics with system logs, recent configuration changes, and resource utilization patterns before considering any remediation steps. Option C. Proceed with a significant configuration optimization of the application component, assuming the performance increase is an indicator of inefficiency that requires immediate tuning. Option D. Temporarily disable the specific monitoring probes for this component to prevent further alerts and allow the system to stabilize on its own. The correct answer is B. Initiate a detailed investigation into the underlying causes of the performance degradation, correlating the observed metrics with system logs, recent configuration changes, and resource utilization patterns before considering any remediation steps. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing proactive system health with the potential for disruption caused by aggressive tuning. The professional challenge lies in interpreting performance data and deciding on the appropriate course of action without introducing new risks or violating service-level agreements, SLAs, that might be implicitly or explicitly tied to system stability. The exam, C2010-507, IBM Tivoli monitoring v6. 3. Implementation focuses on practical application of the monitoring tool, implying a need for sound judgment in operational decisions. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven, and risk-aware methodology. It acknowledges that while performance metrics indicate a deviation, immediate, drastic action could have unforeseen negative consequences. This approach aligns with the principles of responsible IT management, emphasizing thorough investigation before intervention. It also implicitly supports the need for clear documentation and communication, which are crucial for auditability and accountability, key aspects of regulatory compliance in IT environments. An incorrect approach that involves immediately disabling monitoring for the affected component without understanding the root cause represents a significant ethical and professional failure. This action masks the problem rather than solving it, potentially leading to more severe issues down the line that could violate SLAs and expose the organization to reputational damage and financial penalties. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold the responsibility of maintaining system integrity. Another incorrect approach, such as proceeding with a complex configuration change based solely on a single anomalous metric without further validation, is also professionally unacceptable. It bypasses essential troubleshooting steps and introduces a high risk of exacerbating the problem or causing new ones. It shows a disregard for the potential impact on system stability and user experience, which are core professional responsibilities. The professional reasoning framework to employ in such situations involves a structured decision-making process. 1. Observe and collect data. Thoroughly gather all relevant performance metrics and system logs. 2. Analyze and hypothesize. Identify the anomaly, hypothesize potential root causes, and assess the severity and potential impact. 3. Validate hypotheses. Conduct targeted investigations to confirm or refute hypotheses. This might involve checking related systems, reviewing recent changes, or performing controlled tests. 4. Evaluate options. Consider various remediation strategies, assessing the risks, benefits, and potential impact of each. 5. Select and implement. Choose the most appropriate solution based on the evaluation, prioritizing stability and minimal disruption. 6. Monitor and document. Continuously monitor the system after implementation and meticulously document all actions taken and their outcomes. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and accountability is maintained, aligning with the professional standards expected in IT implementation and operations. Question 20. Benchmark analysis indicates a significant degradation in IBM Tivoli monitoring v6.3 performance, impacting critical reporting functions. The operations team has identified a potential configuration setting that, if altered, could immediately restore performance. However, the exact long-term implications of this change are not fully understood, and it deviates from standard operating procedures. What is the most professional and responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the configuration change after a brief internal discussion within the operations team, prioritizing immediate performance restoration. Option B. Document the performance issue and the proposed configuration change, then escalate to the IT governance board for review and approval before implementation. Option C. Implement the configuration change immediately to resolve the performance issue and document the change retrospectively. Option D. Ignore the performance issue for now, as it is not critical enough to risk potential unintended consequences from altering a configuration setting. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the configuration change after a brief internal discussion within the operations team, prioritizing immediate performance restoration. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT operations, balancing the immediate need for system stability with the long-term implications of technical debt and potential security vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in making a decision that prioritizes system uptime and performance, as indicated by the benchmark analysis, while also adhering to established IT governance and risk management principles. The pressure to resolve an immediate performance issue can often lead to shortcuts that, while seemingly expedient, can have significant negative consequences down the line. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a structured, risk-aware decision-making process. It acknowledges the immediate performance concern, but mandates a thorough investigation into the root cause, considering all potential solutions and their implications. This aligns with IT governance frameworks that emphasize proactive problem-solving, change management, and the principle of least privilege. By involving relevant stakeholders and documenting the decision, it ensures accountability and provides a clear audit trail, which is crucial for compliance and future troubleshooting. This approach prioritizes sustainable solutions over temporary fixes, thereby reducing the likelihood of recurring issues and potential security breaches. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on a quick fix without understanding the underlying cause is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a situation where the immediate performance issue is masked rather than resolved, potentially causing more complex problems later. It also bypasses essential change management processes, increasing the risk of unintended system disruption and violating the principle of due diligence. Furthermore, implementing a solution without proper testing or stakeholder approval can introduce new vulnerabilities or performance degradations, directly contravening the goal of system stability and potentially leading to security incidents. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing a solution without proper documentation or stakeholder consultation is also professionally unsound. This creates a lack of transparency and accountability. Without a documented rationale and approval, it becomes difficult to track changes, understand the impact of the modification, or revert if necessary. This can lead to operational inefficiencies, increased troubleshooting time, and potential compliance issues if the change impacts security or data integrity. The professional reasoning framework that should be applied in such situations involves a systematic approach. 1. Identify and clearly define the problem. Understand the symptoms and the impact. 2. Gather information. Collect relevant data, logs, and performance metrics. 3. Analyze root causes. Investigate beyond the immediate symptoms to find the fundamental issue. 4. Identify and evaluate potential solutions. Consider all options, including their short-term and long-term impacts, risks, and benefits. 5. Consult stakeholders. Involve relevant teams, e.g., operations, security, development, to gain their input and ensure buy-in. 6. Document the decision and plan. Record the chosen solution, the rationale, and the implementation steps. 7. Implement and monitor. Execute the plan and closely observe the system for any adverse effects. 8. Review and learn. After the resolution, conduct a post-implementation review to capture lessons learned.